Weirdos. It is Thursday again. My name is Mackenzie, and as always, I am joined by...
I'm Christopher.
And I'm Sarah.
And this podcast is for Weirdos.
What are we talking about?
All right, today we are talking about a smidge of a mystery.
I love a mystery.
Kind of UFO, kind of an unsolved mystery. We are talking about the disappearance of Frederick Valentich.
Oh.
Do either of you know anything about this case?
Negative Ghost Rider.
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure. Like, the name sounds familiar, but I know a lot of weird, potentially UFO disappearance cases.
That's fair.
Or potentially UFO definitely disappearance cases. So I'm like, is this one that I know, or am I just my brain just pretending it's one that I know?
Right. So, Fred Valentich. He's referred to by both Frederick and Fred. It depends on where the story is coming from.
Right.
He was born June 9th, 1958.
Which was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. His birthday's in this month that we are in, as when this recording comes out. So this incident occurs on October 21st, 1978. So
Okay.
Fred is 20 years old at the time of this incident.
Gotcha. So happy birthday, but also you disappear in October.
Yeah, blomp. So Valentich was always really interested in... He was kind of a UFO nerd.
Same.
He really wanted to... be in the Royal Australian Air Force. This is an Australian story. Sorry,
Cool.
I forgot to mention that. But he was a part of the training corps. So his dad was like, he's always been really interested in UFOs. He really wanted to fly, that kind of thing. So
UFO to pilot pipeline.
yeah. So Valentich, on October 21st, he had a private pilot's license.
Okay.
And
So he could fly.
He could fly. He had been a pilot for about 2 years.
Nice.
And had 150 hours of flight time, which is really low.
Right. That's not a lot.
He was studying for his commercial pilot's license. That requires 1,500 hours of flight time.
He's a little baby.
So he's
a baby pilot.
Like a third less than a third of the flight time he needs.
Right. How many hours did he have?
A tenth, 1,500.
I was about to say, he has a tenth.
He has a tenth. I just can't do math.
No, that's okay. It's 11 o'clock at night.
He also had he had this 150 total hours of flying time. He held a class 4 instrument rating, which authorized him for nighttime flight, but only in visual meteorological conditions, so like clear skies,
right.
low clouds, those kinds of
Couldn't
things.
do storms and shit.
He had twice applied to enlist in the Royal Australian Air Force, RAAF, but he was rejected because of inadequate educational qualifications. Not that he wasn't smart enough, he kept failing the classes.
Oh.
Like, he couldn't pass the tests.
Hell yeah, brother. We love a dedicated queen who keeps going back.
So he was studying part-time, like I had mentioned, to become a commercial pilot. He had twice failed all 5 of the commercial license examination subjects. And
this guy, man.
As recently as the month before he disappeared, he had failed 3 more commercial license tests, classes.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I think I know the answer. Does he disappear in an airplane?
He does. He had also, so he has 150 hours. He had been involved in 3 count them, 3 flying incidents in his 150 hours of
I'm not
flight
laughing
time.
at this man.
Every 50 hours.
Basically. He, for example, his first one was he flew into restricted airspace in Sydney.
Okay, that's not like that big. I mean, that's a big deal, but
For
it's
those
not
of you
like
that don't know what
he
that
didn't
means,
crash his plane.
is that means he flew into space that another plane was already occupying
Right.
with intent. He could have crashed his plane
But he didn't.
into another plane.
He didn't.
And then
He
the
almost
other 2 times
Got into trouble.
he received a little whack for his restricted airspace, and then he flew into or through a cloud twice, which at the rating that he had,
He shouldn't do it.
he does not have the qualification to fly blind, and the
Right.
planes that he has a license for do not have the instrumentation required to fly
in
blind.
cloud.
To fly. If you are like, I have been on a plane and flown through a cloud, yes, commercial airplanes have the instrumentation to fly through a cloud.
And your pilot knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and your pilot knows what they're doing, and they're not a 20-year-old idiot.
Your pilot has a commercial pilot's license.
Yeah.
Your pilot isn't somebody's nephew named Fred.
This one, my notes say deliberately flying. I don't know if that's just like the whoever wrote like parts of where I got my information from,
Yeah.
or like whatever.
He made the active choice to fly through.
I'm going on that
but
cloud.
prosecution was considered for the cloud incidents.
Oh my God.
Because of his repeated
Nonsense.
issues with his flight time.
Right.
Like-
I just like plane on cloud crime was not on my 2025 bingo card.
Oh Lord.
According to Fred's father Guido, he was
you buried the lead. His dad's name is Guido.
yeah.
Valentich is a Italian name.
I don't know.
Guido.
According to his dad Guido, Fred was an ardent believer in UFOs and had been worried about being attacked by them.
Oh.
And actually, like up to 6 days before his
I
disappearance,
flew into a cloud twice.
Valentich discussed with his girlfriend Rhonda Rushton the possibility of a UFO taking him away, and basically, like, if he had the ability to say he was like could get abducted, he would go and then like come back to get her, kind of thing.
Honestly, I'm telling both of you right now.
Don't come get you.
No, come get me. If the space people come and go, we're giving you the choice. You either don't get abducted or you do. I'm going with them.
Okay,
I'm getting abducted.
I'm gonna come get you
That's
after the fact. I'll come
Yeah.
I'll take care of you after the fact.
that's fine. I want if I'm given the choice,
I
I'm
get it.
going with the space people.
I get it. Okay.
Find a way to contact us.
Yeah, send a message somehow.
I will ask questions before
Leave
I
us
go.
like with a.
I'll leave you a note before I leave.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll say I'm with the space people. They'll bring me home eventually. I love you. Bye.
Take care of mom.
XOXO. Make
Gossip
sure my
girl.
chickens are fed. And my dogs. My
Okay.
mom.
Don't worry about Sarah's departure from our world.
It's not gonna happen. But if it were,
If
to
it
happen,
were,
So on.
I don't know. Don't fucking talk like that because you motherfucker.
you're the one being prepared, not me.
Focus.
It's gonna focus on you now.
So on the 21st of October, 1978, Fred rents a Cessna 182 plane from Moorabbin Airport in Melbourne to fly to King Island.
Okay.
Now, King Island is about a 90-minute flight from Moorabbin Airport. There were varying... Fred gave multiple reasons as to why he was going to King Island. One of the reasons he gave was he was picking up crayfish, like crawfish. Nice. So he was gonna... But then in another... Like, he told somebody else he was picking up friends and had packed, like, 4 life jackets.
Okay.
Which is odd since he really is at a point where he shouldn't be flying with others. It was scheduled to be like a 40-minute flight west along the Australian coast. And then at Cape Otway, there was going to be like a southern turn for 30 more minutes to over Bass Strait before arriving at King Island.
Got it.
This plane that he had, so it's about a 3-hour flight total round trip.
Okay. That math's wrong, but you're right.
3
Round
hours
trip.
of round trip time, and then, but he had at least 5 hours of fuel.
Okay.
Some sources said it could have had up to 8.
Right.
Most people say it's around 5.
So
He
it's
had
like the Flight 19 thing where they had twice as much fuel as they needed.
He had plenty of fuel. Even if he had gotten like caught up, like he should have had plenty of fuel to make it back to Melbourne.
Got it.
Did he own a plane?
No.
He
Okay.
rented this plane.
Right. He rented this plane, but I
Got it.
wanted to see if he.
No, I think
had
because
his
he has a
own.
private, he had never,
He
he
has a
wasn't.
baby license.
So not only did he have varying reasons for going to King Island, later investigations were like, neither one of these reasons that he gave were correct. And he also failed to inform the King Island airport that he was coming.
Don't do that.
So Fred is flying towards Cape Otway, and he's required because of his license to check in every so often with air traffic control.
Yep.
And he's not flying super high in the air. He's at like 5,000 feet of altitude.
Right.
So he's not...
He's visible.
He's visible from the ground.
Yeah.
Like pretty clearly visible from the ground. The Cessna's a single engine plane. It's not very big. It's really like a one person plane.
Right.
It's a little
little
plane.
guy. And he
It's
is
a little
just
guy.
a little guy.
Yeah.
So as he reaches the turn at Cape Otway, he reports to air traffic control that he sees a large object pass about 1,000 feet above him a couple of times.
Oh.
And I have the air traffic control report. I'm going to read it to you.
Yes. I've never wanted you to read something more than this right now in this moment.
So okay, can I interject real quick before
of
you start
course.
reading? So far, this to me is reading like
Someone who wanted to disappear.
somebody who wanted to disappear, somebody who was sad that they continually are failing their commercial pilot's license tests, and had been planting seeds with his girlfriend to be like, well, if I disappear,
worry,
it's
I
aliens, probably.
I have information that you will want to hear later.
Right. But so far,
Yeah, I get
I
it.
agree with you.
So far, this is reading like I am setting up a very
Very
elaborate
spec-
suicide.
or just disappeared.
or disappear.
I'm going to go change my name.
Yeah.
The air traffic controller's name that was talking to Fred, his name was Stephen Roby.
Okay.
Okay.
Welcome to the scene,
So
Stephen Roby.
the Cessna's call sign was Delta Sierra Juliet.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna say that a whole lot. That's why I'm saying it. It's the Cessna's
Call.
Call sign.
So he takes off from Moorabbin Airport at 17:23.
Okay.
He starts this transmission to Melbourne at 19:06:14.
Like 4 p.m.
No, 19?
Mhm.
That's 7
7
p.m.
When did he take off?
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to.
Hold on. I misread.
Okay.
He
It's
had a
so
he
late
had
at
a
night.
he had his weather briefing at 17:23.
Got it.
He takes off from the airport at 18:19, so 6:19 p.m.
Okay. That makes more sense. So an
And
hour
then-
later-ish.
After departure, he establishes two-way radio communication with Melbourne Flight Service Unit (FSU).
Okay.
Um,
FSU.
yeah. So this
Fuck shit up.
Hell yeah.
This transmission starts at 7:06.
So like
PM.
an hour after takeoff ish.
He's hitting Cape Otway, which is about that 40-minute mark.
Right.
Okay.
Melbourne, this is Delta Sierra Juliet. Is there any known traffic below 5,000?
Okay.
FSU, Delta Sierra Juliet, no known traffic.
Okay.
Delta Sierra Juliet, seems to be a large aircraft below 5,000. FSU, Delta Sierra Juliet, what type of aircraft is it? Fred.
Reasonable question.
Delta Sierra Juliet, I cannot affirm it is 4 bright lights, or it is 4 bright, it seems to me like landing lights.
Okay.
And then there's FSU goes Delta Sierra Juliet, like he didn't like finish what he was trying
Right.
to say. So he's like, "Are you still there?"
Are you done?
Hello?
And then Fred, Melbourne, this is Delta Sierra Juliet. The aircraft has just passed over me at least 1,000 feet above.
Okay.
FSU, Delta Sierra Juliet, Roger, and it is a large aircraft. Confirm. Unknown due to the speed it's traveling. Is there any Air Force aircraft in the vicinity?
Okay.
Delta Sierra Juliet, no known aircraft in the vicinity.
Okay.
Melbourne.
Not just we don't not Air Force. We don't see fucking anything.
There's fucking nothing. Dude.
Melbourne. It's approaching now from due east towards me. Delta Sierra Juliet. FSU leaves his mic open for 2 minutes. Or not 2 minutes, 2 seconds. Fred. Delta Sierra Juliet. It seems to me he's playing some sort of game. He's flying over me 3 times at a time at speeds I could not identify.
So it's going like zoop zoop zoop
Yeah.
zoop zoop zoop.
Weird.
And then Melbourne says, Delta Sierra Juliet, Roger, what is your actual level? Like, where are you actually
Where are
flying?
you?
What height is he at?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My level is 4,500 4500.
Okay.
So he's below 5,000 feet.
Right.
Delta Sierra Juliet, and confirm you cannot identify the aircraft. Like, tell me you don't know what this is.
Yeah.
And he says, Fred says, affirmative. And then Melbourne says, Delta Sierra Juliet, Roger, stand by. Like, he's like, let me
He's
check
like, I'm gonna go do
shit."
some research.
And then
Let me Google it.
Let me call the Air Force.
Fred says, Melbourne, Delta Sierra Juliet, it's not an aircraft, it is. And then he leaves his mic open for 2 seconds. And then it's Delta Sierra Juliet, Melbourne. Can you describe the aircraft?
Can you imagine being that air traffic controller and hearing it's not an aircraft, it is, and going, what?
What is it?
What?
And then Fred says, Delta Sierra Juliet, as it's flying past, it's a long shape. Open mic for 3 seconds. Cannot identify more than that. It has such speed. Another 3 seconds of open mic. Before me right now, Melbourne. So his radio's going in and out.
Yeah.
Then
Ooh.
Melbourne says, Delta Sierra Juliet, Roger, and how large would the object be? Remember, these are Australian people talking, so they have different, like, it's not their theirs is like
Yeah. Nar.
And then Fred says,
Er.
Delta Sierra Juliet, Melbourne. It seems like it's stationary. What I'm doing right now is orbiting, and the thing is just orbiting on top of me. Also, it's got a green light and some sort of metallic, like it's all shiny on the outside. And then
Man's panicking.
Melbourne says, Delta Sierra Juliet, like, keep talking
Whoa.
to me. And then
That was so loud.
Fred says, Delta Sierra Juliet, leaves the mic open for 5 seconds and then says it's just vanished. And
5 seconds is such a long time.
Hang on, and then just hold your horse. We're almost there.
No, I gotta keep interjecting because it's fascinating.
And then Melbourne again says Delta Sierra Juliet. He's like, please keep talking to me. Like, and then Fred says, Melbourne, would you know what kind of aircraft I've got? Is it a type of military aircraft? Like, he's like, please tell me the military's here.
Please tell me
And
that this
then,
is something for realsies.
Melbourne says, Delta Sierra Juliet, confirm the aircraft just vanished. And Fred says, say again. And then Melbourne says, Delta Sierra Juliet, is the aircraft still with you? And then Fred says, Delta Sierra Juliet, it's nor.
No.
Open mic for 2 seconds, now approaching from the southwest. It was coming due east before, now it's coming from the southwest.
Fuck.
And Melbourne is like, Delta Sierra Juliet, homie, keep talking to me. And then...
Does he say homie?
No.
Oh.
He says mate if he says anything.
And then Fred says, Delta Sierra Juliet, the engine is rough idling. I've got it set at 23, 24. And the thing is, and then he's coughing. Like, it just says coughing. So I don't know if the engine is coughing or Fred is coughing.
I don't like it.
And
if
then
Fred is now coughing.
and then Melbourne says, Delta Sierra Juliet, Roger, what are your intentions? Like, what's your plan?
Where are you going now, buddy?
Yeah, like what's happening?
You should try and land.
And
maybe.
then
Abort mission.
Fred says, my intentions are to go to King Island, Melbourne. That strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again. 2 seconds of open mic. It is hovering and it's not an aircraft. And then
is it a fish?
Hold on. And then Melbourne says Delta Sierra Juliet. And then Fred says Delta Sierra Juliet Melbourne. And then the mic is open for 17 seconds. And then Stephen in Melbourne says Delta Sierra Juliet Melbourne, and there is no further transmission from Fred.
Fuck. Very, very early on in this year, we had multiple deadly aircraft incidences.
Right.
And something that I learned in the aftermath is just how long 2 seconds of open air, like how dangerous that can be.
Right.
Like that's why the that military helicopter crash with the commercial plane was the way that it was is because I think the helicopter had left its mic open for a second, 2 seconds, and then suddenly, like, what was it, like 60-something, 70 people dead.
Yeah. So, like, everyone be quiet, and I'm going to tell you how long 2 seconds is.
Yeah.
2 seconds. That was 2 seconds of dead air on our podcast.
Horrible. I don't like
So
that.
it's not just dead air, right?
Yeah, there's sounds there. It's
But
not voices.
Right. It's somebody leaving their mic open. Like, if I just set my microphone down, it would pick up the sounds of the room.
Yeah.
He's on an airplane.
He's on an airplane, and so it is moving, and there is definitely a sound that is other than his plane.
Right. I'm going to turn my audio down so that way, just in case the episode
So,
starts playing.
Stephen Roby was interviewed.
The air
traffic controller. About like how Fred's behavior was on the radio, like as this was happening.
Yeah.
And he says he wasn't to the point where he was panicking, but he was genuinely concerned by what he saw with what he saw. He was worried. He sounded confused. Then, as he described what the aircraft was doing, I became a little concerned too. Like the ground traffic controller's like, I don't really know what to do right now for you because I'm not seeing anything that I can like reassure you with. After the 17 seconds of her open mic, which we just listened to, which was reported to be metallic scraping sounds, Fred was never seen again. After this disappearance, there is a sea and air search was undertaken that included ocean-going ship traffic, an RAAF Lockheed P-3 Orion aircraft, and plus 8 civilian aircraft. The search encompassed over 1,000 square miles. Search efforts ceased on October 25th, 1978 without result. So they searched for 4 days and were unable to find any plane wreckage or Fred.
Crazy.
After this, this was also on Unsolved Mysteries. There's an episode on him. This is like one of the most well-known Australian like disappearance cases.
Okay.
So an investigation
Never would have guessed.
into Valentich's disappearance by the Australian Department of Transport was unable to determine the cause, but it was presumed fatal for Valentich as he has not been seen. 5 years after Valentich went missing, an engine cowl flap was found washed ashore on Flinders Island. In July of 1983, the Bureau of Air Safety Investigation asked the Royal Australian Navy Research Laboratory the likelihood that the cowl flap might have traveled to its ultimate position in the region from the region where the aircraft actually disappeared. The Bureau noted that the part has been identified as having come from a Cessna 182 aircraft between a certain range of serial numbers, which included the rented aircraft by Valentich, but is not it is not a confirmed match to Valentich's aircraft.
It's just like
it could have
this
been
model of aircraft
that was
Yeah.
created in this year.
time because it has it looks like this is the same as the one that he checked out.
Yeah.
It would be
So-
like the bumper from my 2012 F-150 looks like every bumper from every 2012
Right.
F-150.
So the Toledo Blade, which is an Ohio newspaper, ran a news story on this disappearance on October 23rd, 1978, so 2 days after Fred's disappearance.
That's crazy.
Um,
Why in Toledo?
That talks about that basically there were calls made from other people along the coast that claimed to have seen a UFO in the sky Saturday night of Fred's disappearance. Though they had these other claims, the transport department in Australia was like, I don't think that the transport department was, or that a UFO was behind his disappearance. And there's a quote that says, "It's funny all these people ringing up with UFO reports well after Valentich's disappearance." Ken Williams, a spokesman for the department, said, "It seems people often decide after the event they too had seen strange lights. But although we can't take them too seriously, we can never discourage such reports when investigating a plane's disappearance."
Also, like, can I make a small interjection here in regards to that?
Yeah, of course.
That kind of thing of being like, well, of course, after we say that somebody saw a UFO, other people are going to come out and say that they saw a UFO too. And it's like, you're saying that in a dismissive way, but that discourages people from reporting shit.
Right.
Whereas, like, of course, someone going, "Oh my God, someone else saw what I saw. I'm not fucking crazy. I should say something about it."
Yeah,
Like,
because like you remember how fucking insane we felt
right,
talking about the drones,
right.
and like it's like, yeah, I'm not fucking talking about that shit in the open.
Right.
Until I started hearing that
Other people
people
were
were
seeing it.
seeing things.
And it's like the same thing with ghosts. Like when we're doing something, we're like, "Oh my God, did you hear that?
yeah.
Am I crazy? Did you hear that?" And it's like, "No, I also heard that." And that community aspect of
Seeing
experiencing
weird shit.
the paranormal, experiencing the odd is foundational. Like, it's so important. And this guy being like, people love to say they saw weird lights after someone else says they saw weird lights. And it's like, sure, there are going to be crazies that come out of the woodwork and they go,
I saw weird shit.
I saw weird shit on this is what the tornado sounded like. That's not in Australia, that's here.
Yeah.
But like, of course there are going to be those people.
Yeah.
But also you should not be like, just because someone else said they saw something weird doesn't mean you should say that. Yes,
Right.
it does. 100%. If someone else is like, I think, interestingly, when I do my book report, we're going to talk about that because it comes up. But it's like, that aspect of somebody being like, I saw something strange is going to make everyone else feel comfortable enough to say, me too.
Yeah.
I also saw something odd. I saw a weird thing in the sky. So people being like, oh my God, this pilot went missing. I saw a UFO that day.
Right, it's like, I saw weird shit.
I
that
should tell
day.
somebody that I saw a UFO that day because he's saying that he saw a UFO. Maybe it's the same UFO.
Maybe it's the same shit.
Right.
Maybe we're all saying
The same thing.
the same thing.
Anyway, sorry. That's my like interjection
No,
there because
you're
it's like that guy being like, me, and it's like, no, don't me about this. It's a good thing.
Like, shut up.
So ufologists have claimed that a UFO likely either destroyed Valentich's aircraft or abducted him, saying that some individuals reported seeing an erratically moving green light in the sky and that he was in a steep dive at the time. Ufologists believe that these accounts are significant because of the green light mentioned in Valentich's radio transmissions. However, the Mount Stromlo Observatory noted that there was a meteorite stream that night with up to 10 to 15 sightings per hour. The group Ground Saucer Watch, based in Phoenix, Arizona, claims that the photos taken by a witness, plumber Roy Manifold, hilarious that he has the last name Manifold and he's a plumber, on the day of Valentich's disappearance, show a fast-moving object exiting the water near the Cape Otway Lighthouse. According to UFO writer Jerome Clark, Ground Saucer Watch argued that they showed a bona fide unknown flying object of moderate dimensions, apparently surrounded by a cloud-like vapor/exhaust residue.
Fuck yeah.
Although the pictures were not clear enough to identify the object.
Well, it's unidentified.
A Snopes editor suggested that the object was most likely an out-of-focused fly or a bird.
You're an
passing
out-of-focused
by.
fly.
So a couple of like, to go back to your theory, like, oh, this is a man committing suicide.
Right.
Fred's dad was very much like, that is not at all. Like, he was very motivated. He wanted to get this license. He wanted to be part of the Air Force.
Clearly, he wants to do it. He keeps trying.
Like, he keeps trying.
He keeps trying to no avail.
He's not acting like, yeah, he's sad he's not passing, but he's not giving up. Like, he's
not like letting it demoralize him. He's
Yeah.
like, no, I'm gonna fucking do it.
So like
this time.
So his dad and his girlfriend were both like, Fred wouldn't commit suicide. That's not who he was. That's not the behavior he was portraying.
And this is a very elaborate plan for the people around him to be like, no, he really was like just being like, no, I'll get it next time, guys. Next time, I promise. I'll get it. I'm gonna get in. So good at flying planes.
There was
I'm just bad at testing.
There was in 2013, there was a review of the radio transcripts and other data by astronomer and retired U.S. Air Force pilot James McGaha and author Joe Nickell, and they proposed that the inexperienced Valentich was deceived by the illusion of a tilted horizon, for which he attempted to compensate and inadvertently put his aircraft into a downward so-called graveyard spiral, where he initially mistook he mistook the orbiting of the aircraft for actually being like in a spiral. According to the authors, the G-forces of a tightening spiral would decrease fuel flow, resulting, because the Cessna is a gravity flow fuel system, resulting in the rough idling reported by Valentich. McGaha and Nickell also proposed that the apparently stationary overhead lights that Valentich reported were probably the planets Venus, Mars, and Mercury, along with the bright star Antares, which would have behaved in a way consistent with Valentich's disappearance or description. As it happens,
not that bright.
So I pulled the basically the way the positioning of these three planets and the star, based on where he was in the world, do form a diamond pattern similar to that of what Valentich saw. And some people say that the green light that the Valentich saw was actually, once he had inverted his plane, was his own lights reflecting off the water. And so a lot of people, some people believe that Valentich crashed in the water, and because of where he crashed, he got pulled out by the current. And by the time people were looking, he had moved to a different, like under the water, had been moved to a different location. They couldn't find him. There is a theory that there's kind of this, the Fred Valentich disappearance kind of rounds out this Bass Strait Triangle theory, similar to the Bermuda Triangle, where there were like throughout the 40s and 50s, there were some planes and boats and stuff that disappeared. There was wreckage found of those, a handful of those things that were lost in the Bass Strait, the quote unquote Bass Strait Triangle. So it's not like the Bermuda Triangle, where like there's very, very little, if any, wreckage ever found from people that disappear in the triangle. And that area was not given the name the Bass Strait Triangle until after Valentich disappeared.
Okay.
So they kind of they're like, well, now this has happened, and so clearly this is another thing like the Bermuda Triangle.
Right.
Rhonda did not believe that if Valentich was abducted, like, she's like, I feel like he would have come to try to like come get me, like we had talked about, but maybe they didn't let him or whatever. Right. His father also believes that he was likely taken by something and is not just somewhere in the ocean.
Gone. Right.
That he's alive, being held, and maybe one day will be returned to us. It's a lot of people discount this, especially with the wash up of that engine cowl with the partial match to the Cessna 182 that Fred rented.
Right.
But there's always the chance with alien abduction that they took him and then let the plane hit the water, and Fred's body was never with the plane once it hit the water anyway.
Right.
Some people say that they saw Fred flying and never saw anything else in the sky alongside Fred, and Fred crashed his own plane, like you said, out of sadness
Sad.
or some conspiracy theory to change his identity and move elsewhere or whatever. So
A purposeful escape.
that's kind of all I do have this report that I have that I read the transcript from is the official incident report released by the Royal Australian Air Force. This full report was not completed and released until April 27th, 1982. So it was about 4 years after Fred's disappearance, or within 4 years of Fred's disappearance. And there was a 4-day, like they did take it seriously enough to have a 4-day plane and boat search. So in my opinion, it's not like the Australian Air Force didn't take it seriously. It's that there truly was nothing for them to find.
Right.
They did mention like there was an oil slick found kind of in the region, but it could not be, I guess the type of oil it was or whatever could not be like shown to be from Fred's plane.
Could it be disproven?
Listen, there's just not enough.
Right.
Like it was like a small patch of oil on the water. That area has a good bit of boat traffic. There's like it's a populated area. It's not a huge area. So if Fred's plane had stayed where it was supposed to, or if they didn't just take the plane and then drop it somewhere else as they went wherever they were going, whatever. This is on quite a few different, like I said, it was on Unsolved Mysteries at a time.
I think that's what I know it from.
Probably. There's a like short little, it's like ABC Australia. It's like a 28-minute kind of podcast documentary episode talking to like Stephen Roby and the girlfriend and different people. I believe it's like a 40th anniversary kind of special thing that they did at one point. That's what I have for you about Fred Valentich. What did you learn? What are your thoughts? I'm pretty sure he was abducted. And if he wasn't,
Where the fuck is he?
where is he? Kind of similar to like the Flight 19 stuff. It's like,
Right.
if they weren't taken by something, where are they? Why has it been this long? Because other vessels that were said to be lost in that Bass Strait Triangle have been found.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they have not found anything and it has been this long and it's that same area besides this potential engine cowl match, there has been nothing.
Right.
So
Before I say my theory, can I slander Joe Nickel for a second?
absolutely.
That guy who wrote that paper about why he wasn't abducted by aliens.
Yeah.
Remember in Mothman, the really bad science experiment about people being bad at judging how big Mothman was?
Yeah.
Joe Nickel.
Oh.
So like, I don't fucking trust that guy.
Yeah.
He does
Fuck
not.
that guy.
He does not do well thought out good science. And he does science that he knows will prove the point he wants to prove.
Got it.
So I'm like,
Right.
I don't know if I trust, especially when like everything I've seen from him has been doing a kind of half done experiment or something to prove an absence of a thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, stop it.
Stop that.
Also, he calls himself a cryptozoologist. Anyway, I do think like this is very odd. I think oftentimes in cases of actual suicide or disappearance of a person who like just disappears themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their family will be like, I never saw this coming, right?
Yeah.
But based on everything else about this guy, of how adamant he was to become a pilot, how into flying he was, how much that was his thing, I don't think that this was a like elaborate ruse to erase himself. I think that this truly was, he was like, I'm doing that thing that I do where I find my plane. I want to know what he was going to that fucking island for, because I think it was
Nefarious
in some way. I think the reason why he didn't tell people, like, there was no
sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
like,
baby.
I want to know what he was going to that island for, because I don't think that he, like, the fact that he had two different stories that were very different and silly, is interesting to me. But I don't, again, if it was an elaborate plan, those details would have been the same. He would have told every single person, I'm going to Kings Island for this reason. Like, I'm going there to get crayfish for me and my girlfriend to eat for dinner.
right.
Because I'm making plans, so I'm not I'm not going to crash my airplane.
Right.
That is interesting to me. That it's like, oh, I'm gonna go get this, and then someone else was, and he asked someone else asking, he's like, oh, I'm picking up friends, and it's like, what are you doing over there, buddy? Did you have a plan with the aliens? Did you plan this with the aliens?
Ask them to show up.
Did you do like I just did, where I went, get me? Anyway, I think he was abducted. I think everyone was abducted though.
I don't really know. Because I think I'm of the belief that he did crash. Maybe he did see something and it scared him or caused him to crash. Maybe he did get abducted out of the plane and the plane crashed.
Yeah.
But as somebody who, I mean, all of the wrecks that I was looking at were further north than that. But as somebody who has looked at a bunch of World War II wrecks of planes and ships, kind of north of this triangle, but like kind of in that area, I wouldn't be surprised if that shit never gets found.
Right.
Like there's enough wreckage in that area of the ocean that like, yeah, I don't
And
think
it's a little
gonna get
plane.
found. It's a little plane. And like it's not made out of like warship grade materials.
In comparison to a World War II aircraft, it's made out of fucking balsa wood. Like,
yeah,
it's not made out of balsa wood, but it could be.
it could be. And so like I would not be surprised if that shit fucking degrades and is never found.
Fair. And you know what? You're allowed to sit over there
Yeah.
and be a little skeptic.
I think it would be great
He's
if this little guy
with the space people
is living
except
with
for
the
he's
space
not
people.
having a good time because they won't let him come get his girlfriend.
Right. I would love
Or call his dad.
a like 2024 or 2025, what fucking year is it? A 2025 check-in with the dad and the girlfriend if they're still alive. Like the girlfriend's probably still alive. Dad maybe not.
If he was 20 and 78,
Maybe. He'd just be
Maybe.
really old.
yeah.
I mean,
Depending on how old he was.
I think they still do some like anniversary stuff. I know both the dad and the girlfriend like help continue to like honor Fred on his birthday and on the anniversary of his disappearance.
Yeah.
and
Happy
different
birthday.
things
Like,
that.
I would just be fascinated to hear from them now
Yeah.
and be like, with this progression of time, what do you think now? Do you
I
still think the same thing?
2018 was the 40-year anniversary.
Okay, so maybe in a couple years
And
we'll hear from them.
So I remember
50.
because I think
Is 40.
again that 30-minute episode that I listened to was the 40th anniversary, and
Oh,
both
cool.
for sure the girlfriend speaks, and I think if the dad doesn't, she talks about his dad.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. So
Yeah,
while I think Fred was kind of just an idiot 20-year-old, it sucks that he like poof.
Right.
sucks that he
So
maybe died,
Right.
but
I
like
think
Which again, I'd much rather think about it that he got abducted by aliens.
I would much rather believe that he got abducted by aliens, but I
don't know if that's the better option.
right.
feel
I'm
like
not sure
he's
that's
not
better,
dead.
especially not after listening to the Aerial School.
Yeah, those kids had some weird shit happen to them. I feel bad for them. If you're listening to this podcast, hi, email us.
Hello, tell us about the aliens.
Fred, if you're out there, email us.
Fred,
if
if
you
you're
have
out there.
access to Gmail, send us an email, buddy.
Can I add something?
No.
It at certain points it kind of made me think about what is it? The W.E.B. Du Bois. Fucking
yes, I know who you're talking about.
stole all that money.
DB Cooper.
Oh, DB
DB
Cooper?
Fuck. Who was I think was?
I don't know. Who you're-
That's an author. That was an author that I was thinking of.
W.B. Du Bois.
Yeah,
DB Cooper.
DB Cooper.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's all you need to know about the disappearance of Frederick Valentich.
I hope the space people are treating you well, Fred.
Yeah, listen.
I hope you're safe with them and having a great time.
Me too. We
Join
love
us
you.
next week for
Fucking something.
who knows. It's going to be great, though.
Thanks for listening.
This podcast is for weirdos.
Are you a weirdo?
Thursdays are for the phenomena.